I do remember you in the first episode of Red Dwarf. So
I've been killed in the episodes of Red Dwarf, first episode of Red Dwarf and Hornblower.
Right, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was turned into a pile of sherbet in the first episode of Red Dwarf. And very annoyingly, I was working in Manchester and they asked me to sort of resurrect the character just for an episode of Todd Hunter, that was his name. And so I was very upset. I'd love to have gone back and done that. But yeah, we did. I was nuked in the first one, and and blown up in Hornblower.
Well, so they both did pretty well those series, so maybe that's
they did very
good
well
luck.
Without me.
Kill Bathurst in episode 1. Though Cold Feet, you survived that, and that's done all right as well.
Yeah. Actually, I've not only been blown up and stuff, I've been hit an awful lot. I think actors are divided into those who hit and those who get hit. And I'm definitely the other, this one.
Yeah.
And so I did I had a website at one stage. I'm not very tech savvy. And I had a website at one stage and it got taken over by Chinese, I think. I can't remember where it is now. Anyway, there was a button on it called Greatest Hits, which was my compilation of me being punched and kicked and killed and blown up in various shows over the years. But I may try and find that again. Yeah,
it would be good to see. I mean, you've got to, that's a little bit of the characters you play, I would say, sometimes have a little bit of a punchable face.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, but also, I agree.
It happens to be your face as well, Robert.
Yeah, and guns. I can't really hold an automatic weapon with any great authority, And so I generally on the receiving end.
Yeah, terrific. Look, I'm not even going to go in order because there's things that I really want to talk about, and just in case we don't get time. But look, I have to mention Toast of London, which is, I mean, that's a. It was maybe an unusual choice for you after having done, so you've done quite a few mainstream sitcoms, and you've done something like Cold Feet, and Toast of London is quite out there.
Well, I mean, that's the principle of working. I mean, always, if something seems, when I first read Toast, I thought, what is this? Which was the reason for doing it.
Yeah.
Because it just seemed completely unlike anything I'd seen before or read before. And it wasn't until I was filming the pilot that I began to understand really what it was. And I like people who've got art school backgrounds as well. I just think there's so many Oxbridge English people in the media who know everything. They got the answer to absolutely everything. And I like working with art school people. Art school people throw it up and see what lands.
Yeah.
So there are two in particular, Matt Berry and a cartoonist called Charles Peaty I've done stage shows with. And they just have a different approach to things. Matt's a jazzer. He's a musician, really good musician, but his whole attitude is jazz. And that came through in the writing of it. So yeah, I mean, it might well have not worked. And in fact, the first series, nobody wrote about it, and it was going to get pulled. And then the second series, Matt won an award for it, and people started to come around to it. And we've only done two of Toast of London, and then he went and did the Hollywood one.
Yeah.
I think I love it because it's got its own language, and also comedy names are really difficult. If you read a sitcom and everybody's called Blenkinsop and Chumley or whatever, and if they're trying too hard with the names, but the way what Matt and Arthur do is they like fridge magnet names from two connections, and they spend months sort of finding name pairings that work, and so you have Kikini Bamalam and Pookie Hook and all those other ones.
Yep.
And rather enjoyably, a racing trainer has named characters after characters in Toast. They named horses after characters in Toast. And I have to say, Hauser Black has won 5 races.
Someone reminded me on Twitter, and I think I should ask you about the episode with Bruce Forsyth, who you've mentioned, the character. That's quite an extraordinary scene. I watched it again today. It's quite an extraordinary scene, isn't it?
It has. I mean, it is. It's. Does anybody remember that one episode? Yeah, right. I mean, it was extraordinary. It was extraordinary, and it's very difficult to describe. And when people say what is Toast, and people who've seen it, the converted guy, Toast, but people who haven't, of course, they're as blank as I was when I first read it, and they sort of think when I first came across it, and they have no. Well, if you say I had to sleep with the Bruce Forsyth lookalike, and there's a character in it played by Tracy Ann Overman who's a prostitute, but she only charges her husband for sex. It sort of gets people into the zone of where Toast lies.
Yeah, and it's sort of a parody of actors without it being, you know, it's not parodying anything. They're not really real characters within acting.
That's the brilliant thing. I mean, there's a couple of things there. One is Matt takes the piss out of actors. And when I first read it, I thought, is this just a niche? Is this just an industry humour thing? And it's gone so much wider than that. But Matt is not. I mean, he's not. He hasn't done much acting. You know, he's done well. He said that he said, oh, the greatest job I ever did was I worked in the London dungeon on the Ripper tour, and you know, it's absolutely fantastic because you had all these Japanese tourists and stuff like that going around with you and through the streets and stuff like that, and then you'd eventually reveal yourself to be the Ripper, and they'd all faint. It was fantastic, and that for him that was acting, you know, like that. And yet, you know, he does get under the skin of the nonsense and the vanity of and the craziness of doing that job, but. And yet he's not sort of part of it. It takes the best sort of satirists are slightly sort of outside the world that they're satirizing. Yes. Very often. Yeah. But he's absolutely got it, and I love the fact that actors like it. There's no voiceover studio I've been to then it isn't. I can hear you, Clem Fandango, scrawled up in the wall.
I love Clem Fandango so much.
Yeah.
And then he occasionally, you know, he's a very good actor, and he turns up in quite serious thrillers and dramas and things, and it's just so enjoyable to see him.
Yeah.
but it's if you haven't seen it, which sounds like you all have in the room at least, do check it out. It is extraordinary. Hopefully, will there be more of that one? I mean, I
don't know. I mean, Matt's working a lot in North America, in Canada, right. and his eyes. And there's a lot of. He did Toast of Tinseltown, and Americans were queuing up to say, "I can hear you, Clem Fandango." So maybe there'll be more. I don't know.
Maybe. The Bruce Forsyth thing is very upsetting. I mean, look, it's literally everything. Like I'm interested in the Dad's Army taking on the role of John Lemez, wasn't it?
I did two outings as John Lemez. I did one was I think I got the nod for the remake of the Dad's Army, other restoration of the Dad's Army, because of that. I did a thing with Ruth Jones when she played Hattie Jakes. And, that's right, and I played John Lemez in that. Yes. And then, then because of the 80 episodes of Dad's Army that were made in the 60s, 6 were taped over to make Panorama or something like that, you know, just sort of, because they didn't regard it as something that'll ever be seen again.
Crazy.
And so the tapes, these big chunky videotapes were taped over, and they found copies in various stations around the world. For most of them, but there were 3 episodes of Dad's Army which we've never seen, and the completists among the fans of Dad's Army wanted to see, would claim that they'd like to see them made, but of course they couldn't be made because the great heroes were dead. But so they got sort of the understudies in to play the parts. They rebuilt the Warmington-on-Sea in the studio, and in the audience it was rather strange. There were a lot of people from the Dad's Army Appreciation Society in full uniform. All of them going, oh yeah, come on, let's see what you can do. And it was done faithfully to it. And we were just doing a restoration job. I think there's no point. There have been various Dad's Army things, and to my opinion, there's no point in remaking something that's available. There's no point in recreating the characters in a thing that Jimmy Perry and David Croft didn't write. Yeah. And so these were pure in the sense that they were the shows. They were shot as close as you could get to it as they were. And we all knew our job, which was to land the script, you know. Yeah. And the 3 episodes, they were restorations, and they seemed to go okay.
Yeah. How does it feel to step into that? Presumably, like all of us, you watch these things as a kid, and you know, I remember Dad's Army being, you know, I remember the "Don't Tell Him" Pike thing and how funny that was at the actual first time that it happened. But you know, you remember watching those with the whole family, and then to step into it and be in it.
Well, it's great because I mean, it was a through line to what they had to do, and that was really a thread which was really exciting to take on. But I mean, and also you become aware that these sitcom writers, they construct comedy so well. I mean, I say Stephen Moffat is on a par with that. I mean, I think his comedy construction is unparalleled. And so you're dealing with scripts which everything pays off, everything's set up and everything pays off. And so to do that was a real pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, well, it's a very interesting story of why that came up as well.